There is a common belief that race, nationality, and ethnicity are pure, that somehow there was development in an isolated and superior way. Chemically, we are the same. We are all made of the very same things. We are all descended from people who in the past moved far more than we do now. Trace your lineage backward, and you will find far more diversity than you expected. There are some isolated places on the planet where people are mostly this or that, but for everywhere else, we are all quite mixed. The tracing of language also strongly shows this. A proto-language is the known ancestor to a family of languages. Most of the world's population does not live near where the mother of their languages began. These proto-languages may go back even further, but there is almost no evidence of such things because we know nearly nothing of those times. The vast majority of languages trace their language lineage back to only a handful of places. For more than 70% of the Earth's people, the proto-language of what they speak began in the Eurasian Steppes. I once couldn't resist. I had to see the Eurasian Steppes. I had to know where most of the languages came from. I wanted to experience this place. I had to obtain special visas and would spend about 6 weeks traveling more than 5,000 miles or 8,000 kilometers across it. This is a prohibitive place, a place of extreme cold in the winter, intense heat in the summer, and high winds year-round. As I traveled through there, snow was still on the ground in places during the middle of their summer in July. It is a vast and nearly continuous flat grassland with little variance. History has found it sparsely populated and virtually without cities. It forms only 2% of the world's landmass. It is a stretch of land reaching out a few thousand miles or several thousand kilometers and is fairly narrow. It extends across high northern latitudes, from Eastern Europe to Manchuria in northeast China. The areas most strongly associated with it are in Kazakhstan, Siberia, Mongolia, and Ukraine. Several other countries have areas in it as well. Taiwan, Northeast Africa, and the Congo account for the origin of virtually all of the remaining 30% of currently spoken languages. This means virtually 100% of today's spoken languages originated in the Eurasian Steppes, Taiwan, and the two mentioned places in Africa. There are a number of languages spoken by a few people in which their proto-languages are either unknown or almost nothing is known about them. The Basque language of southern France and northern Spain is one example. This is a lone survivor of languages that existed before the Indo-European languages came to Europe. Some theories bring all languages back to one original language of all languages, but they are a long way from being able to prove this as a possibility. These people of our early languages were also our ancestors. Many of the Eurasian steppe people who spoke these proto-languages were nomadic pastoralists. Many powerful conquerors came off the Eurasian steppes, including that of the Mongols, Timur, the Turks, the Huns, the Scythians, the Mughals, the Goths, and many, many others. The Eurasian steppes provided a natural breeding ground for great fighters. The climate was harsh, and living as a pastoral nomad gives one many of the skills needed to be an exceptional soldier. They could move great distances in little time. Supply chain is often a critical part of warfare and makes an army vulnerable from it. If the supply chain is disrupted, which can be food, supplies, ammunition, and other things, the army then can become completely ineffective. The nomadic armies did not need a supply chain. They lived off the land and created their supplies day to day. These tribal conquerors would often embrace the lifestyles of those they had conquered in culture and religion. Proto-languages that developed on the Eurasian steppes include Indo-European, Sino-Tibetan, Native American, Mongolian, Turkic, Japanese Korean, and Uralic. It is widely believed the Indo-European languages began in an area north of the Black and Caspian Seas between 4500 BCE and 2500 BCE. Today, this area is mostly in southern parts of Ukraine, Russia, and Turkmenistan. These people were the ancestors of people who descended south. One group would go to the west, and the other group to the east. The group that went west now accounts for most of Europe's languages. The group that went east now accounts for Farsi, the language of Iran, Afghanistan, and Tajikistan. It was also Sanskrit, the language of early Hindu, and today many of the languages of India, Pakistan, Nepal, and Bangladesh. I will in a future episode come back and cover more about the group that went east. To this day, numerous words between Indo-European languages are recognizable from one language to the next. Between 2400 and 2200 BCE, the pre-Proto-languages of Greek, Armenian, and Anatolian had split off from Indo-European. The Minoan civilization of Greece, particularly the islands of Crete and Santorini, began around 3000 BCE. These were not an Indo-European people. Their language has not been fully deciphered. By about 2000 BCE, the Minoans flourished and were one of the world's most impressive civilizations. Around 1600 BCE, one of the largest volcanic eruptions in human history occurred, destroying the Minoan civilizations on Santorini. Many believe the tales of Atlantis are about Santorini. Proto-Greek speakers entered Greece between 2200 and 1900 BCE. The earliest evidence of Greek writing was between 1450 and 1350 BCE. These were known as the Mycenaeans. The Mycenaeans took over control of the Minoan capital on Crete, as well as what is now Greece and the western shoreline of what is Turkey. The Mycenaeans were a world power. The tales of the Iliad and Odyssey are about the Mycenaeans and their fight against the Trojans at the city of Troy in western Turkey. It is not known why they collapsed around the year 1200 BCE. Others did as well. This was known as the Late Bronze Age collapse, which either found kingdoms disintegrated or strongly affected by it. In addition to the Mycenaeans, it included the Hittites, Egyptians, Assyrians, Elam, the Phoenicians, Babylonians, and others around the Mediterranean. About 1000 BCE, Greek writing letters adapted from Phoenician. All European alphabets are derived from this. It is thought the Greeks took this from Phoenician traders. Phoenicians got it from an earlier people who got it from Egyptian hieroglyphs. Each letter is a drawing of concrete items, such as a house, a door, an animal, etc. Over time, the letters have been modified by changing their direction or drawing slightly. The period of 800 to 600 BCE found the Greeks colonizing and creating cities all around the Mediterranean and Black Sea coast. During this time, Greek city-states would develop, and except a short period during Alexander the Great, Greece would remain this way until recent times. During this series, I will touch upon the academic achievements of various languages. A given language is a way of thinking and seems to allow a given people to thrive. I will in particular do this with Greek, Latin, Russian, English, Farsi, Arabic, Sanskrit, French, and Chinese. There may be others I add to this as well. One of these colonizing Greek groups was the Ionians, who migrated to the central part of the west coast of Turkey. The Ionians became one of the great intellectual bases in history. First, Homer is thought to have been from Ionia. Homer was a great poet, and among his many works, he was the first to write the Iliad and also the Odyssey. These tales were carried down verbally for a few hundred years. Ionia was the birthplace of Greek philosophy. The first scientific revolution and critical thinking developed here as a base for modern thought. Among those from the region of Ionia was Thales of Miletus, whom many believed to be the first philosopher of Greek tradition. There was Heraclitus of Ephesus, known for, among many things, coining the phrases, "Know thyself," and "No man steps into the same river twice." Samos was an Ionian island, along with the birthplace of Pythagoras and Epicurus. I may do a biography here on Pythagoras, as I believe he was one of the standouts in antiquity. Epicurus led Epicurean thought, which has had a big influence on philosophy and political thought. He was a strong influence on such people as Thomas Jefferson, John Locke, Karl Marx, and others. Hippocrates was born in 470 BCE on the Ionian island of Chios. Hippocrates is known as the father of medicine. The Hippocratic oath that doctors make is named after and based on his words of commitment to medicine and healing. Many other well-known scholars and philosophers came from Ionia. Classical Athens of 2400 years ago certainly has had the most profound effect on the West in the academic sense. It is often called the cradle of Western civilization. One could certainly just walk down the street during this time and run into some of the history's greatest thinkers. There were the philosophers, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Herodotus, father of history, was there. Aristophanes, Sophocles, and Euripides were the greatest of playwrights. They called Athens home. Democritus, another Athenian, was there, now known as the father of science and the creator of the theory that everything is made up of atoms. Athens was known for its democracy, but even there, academic freedom was fragile, and as has been so common in history, one of the most dangerous things one can do is to create an academic idea. Doing this might result in a powerful individual feeling threatened by it, and the powerful individual might end the life of the one who created the academic idea. There were countless others in Athens at the time who are well known in academic history. One of my favorites is Demosthenes. Demosthenes was a horrible speaker as a young man. He was not able to debate his inheritance effectively in a public court, and because of this inability, he lost it. This fueled his ambition to change his ability. He then became obsessive about learning how to speak publicly and would go to the seashore, put rocks in his mouth, and try to speak above the crashing waves. He was relentless in this. His ambition and effort were so effective that many call him the greatest orator or public speaker to have lived. Thank you so much for watching, and stop by in future episodes if you'd like to explore the origins of language. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and like, and have a great day.